Hey everyone and welcome. Have you ever stopped to think about how a simple icon on your screen, something you see every single day, could mean something completely different to someone else? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the really surprising ways technology is understood across generations and cultures. We're going to uncover some fascinating ghosts hiding in our modern machines.
Okay, let's just jump right in. We're starting with a super simple question about a symbol that, millions of us click on without a second thought. For a long time, the answer seemed completely obvious, but that is changing, and it's changing fast.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This slide totally captures a growing divide in how we see things. For anyone who grew up with PCs in the 80s or 90s, that's a floppy disk, end of story. But for some younger users, especially in Japan, it looks exactly like a vending machine. See the little metal part? That looks like the slot where you'd grab your soda. And no, that's not a joke. It is a perfect example of a symbol that has completely lost its original meaning.
So, how in the world did a floppy disk become a vending machine? This brings us to this really cool idea of digital ghosts. These are metaphors and symbols from a physical world that, for a whole lot of people, has just completely disappeared.
The design principle behind all this has a big, fancy name, skeuomorphism. But all it really means is making new digital things look like familiar old things. The whole idea was to make technology feel less scary by using metaphors from the real world we already understood. But here's the kicker. What happens when that real-world object is just gone?
Well, as this chart shows, not all these digital ghosts are created equal. Some symbols, like the magnifying glass for search or a little cog for settings, have become what we can call secure archetypes. We just get them, even if we've never actually used the physical object. But others, like our friend the floppy disk, have become an obsolete referent. The original connection is totally broken.
And this isn't just about one little icon. It's about an entire way of thinking, a whole digital world that is fundamentally changing right under our noses. For a generation raised on smartphones, the whole concept of a desktop with files and folders is completely alien. This user on Hacker News just absolutely nails it. Data isn't something you organize in this neat little hierarchy. It's just stuff that lives inside an app. Oh man, remember this little dance? For so many of us, navigating a complicated file system was a core digital skill. It was this multi-step scavenger hunt, digging through nested folders, just hoping you remembered where you stashed that one document. For mobile-first users, this whole ritual is completely gone, replaced by a single all-powerful search bar.
So what we're really seeing here is a huge shift from a spatial model, where you had to remember where you put something, to a search-based model, where you only need to remember what it is. The mental heavy lifting has shifted from organization over to retrieval.
But hang on, this isn't just about age. It's also very much about geography. Let's take a look at how culture creates these vastly different digital experiences, where what's considered good design is completely up for debate.
Right here, you can see how design philosophies just split. Western user experience, or UX, often prizes minimalism. Lots of white space is seen as premium and elegant. But in many Asian markets, information density is seen as really valuable. A packed screen suggests richness and tons of functionality, while a sparse one might look like it's missing features. And this goes for the apps themselves. Do you want a specialized, single-purpose app or a super app that does literally everything?
And believe me, the little details matter a ton. What seems universal to us is often just one culture's standard that happened to become dominant. That American-style mailbox icon means very little to someone in the UK who's used to a red pillar box. The home icon showing a suburban house can feel really weird in a city filled with high-rise apartments. What we think of as intuitive is often just what's culturally familiar to us.
All right, so when you put all of this together, these massive shifts in technology, in thinking, in culture, it brings us to a really crucial question. What does it even mean to be a digital native anymore?
And I think this is the key takeaway right here. These skills are not innate. They're not magic. As this Reddit user points out, digital literacy is something that is taught and learned within a very specific context. A kid learns what's in front of them, whether that's a command line from the 80s or a TikTok feed today. So maybe a much better way to think about this is generational fluency. It's not that one generation is better or worse with technology, it's just that each generation becomes fluent in whatever the dominant tools and interfaces are during their formative years. It's not a divide, it's more like a continuum.
So as technology keeps simplifying things, some really foundational skills are starting to fade away. Studies are showing that many young people can't read an analog clock, which means a word like clockwise loses its physical anchor. And as autosave in the cloud becomes the default, even the very concept of manually saving a file might soon feel as old-fashioned as the floppy disk itself.
So what's the next great shift? What's next on the horizon? Well, the paradigm is already moving again, evolving beyond just tapping and searching and into something else entirely. We are moving from a model based on search to a model based on conversational AI. And that leads to our final thought for today. When the main interface is no longer a screen you navigate, but a conversation you have, what fundamental skills are going to become obsolete next? And maybe more importantly, what new, maybe even unimaginable fluencies will take their place?